Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Samantha back here with another fun video, hopefully. And it's at this point here I jokingly yank my husband's wrist into shot. This is what we're going to be making today, men's bracelets. Look at these guys, aren't they gorgeous? So really chunky, this one. It's 2mm wire and this one's 1.5mm wire. As always, I will put the gauge equivalents up here somewhere. So today we're going to look at these guys, aren't they gorgeous? Dead simple, really easy to make, and cool for a gentleman. This isn't my arm, this is my husband's arm. I'm not that hairy. So I'll just clear him away and we'll do a materials list. There we go. All right, so let's have a look what we need. So we are going to be using some pretty chunky wire, guys, okay? So I'm going to be showing you two different wire gauges. This one is for those of us who have relatively big, strong hands and can handle thicker gauges. I think this is 14 gauge, it's 2mm copper wire. It's soft wire, but obviously with it being thick, lower gauge, it's quite sturdy, so that's fine. And we're also going to be using 1.5, which I believe is 16 gauge copper wire. Again, it's got a bit of handle to it. It's soft wire, but it's easier to handle than this guy here. So this is the more chunky version, which is used from the 2mm 14 gauge, and this is a more delicate version. If you have a husband or a partner, or I don't know, a son who's got a slightly more delicate wrist, then this would be perfect. All right, so it's a variation on a theme. We've used the cotter pin link in a previous video where I wrapped beads in the spaces, and I'll put a link to that up here if you would like to have a look at that. But because we're squaring the link off, it makes it just a little touch more masculine. All right, so that's our 2 gauges of wire there. You're going to need some heavy duty cutters. Now these guys have had a lot of bashing, but they're good for the thicker gauges. All right, so heavy duty cutters. My regular cutters will handle the 16 gauge, so see what you've got in your toolbox. You're also going to need some flat nose pliers. So I'm using these ones. They've had, again, a lot of use, and they've got a squared edge to them. Okay, so those. What else? And you're going to need some either round nose pliers or your very trusty 6-step bail making pliers. Mine are 2 to 9 increments, if anybody wants to know, and I use these ones all the time. You're going to need just a little emery file, just when we make our little clasps, just takes the rough edges off. You're going to need just a ruler, just to measure out your lengths. And I would suggest you get yourself some silicone finger cots. Now these guys are superb. I wear these all the time because if I don't, then I get calluses on my fingers. So you get the finger cots that cover the whole of the tip of the finger. I just cut the tip off and use these. Great tip for you if you're going to be, doing a lot of work with pliers. There you go. It helps your fingers to get protected against these sore calluses. All right, and I think that is all you're going to need. So I'll clear the table away and we will go on and make these really nice gentleman's bracelets. Okay, so I'll see you in a few. And we are back. So my husband's just come to me and said that he's demanding some payment for his modelling session, but I don't know. I thought he was pretty poor, don't you? So I'm not paying him anything. Maybe I'll give him one of these bracelets. Righty-ho, so let's go for it. So to make these, I usually do what I call a production line. So I'll make lots of the components all, sort of at the same time and then add them afterwards. But it's entirely up to you how you do it. So I'll just show you the larger, the thicker gauge version, just to show you how difficult it might be for some of us or for some of you who've got troublesome hands. But I'll just bring in the wire and show you how to construct these guys, okay? So like I say, I make a few bits at a time and then, you know, sort of put them together in a production line type of thing. So to use this thicker wire, just give it a bit of a stretch, you know, sort of straighten it out a little bit, and come in with your industrial cutters. Watch your eyes, please, guys. I don't want anyone suing me for loss of eyesight. So as you saw, I cut it with my, obviously don't cut into your hand, which I nearly did once. Just be really careful. So you come in with your ruler. So for each one of these little units, let me measure them for you. So around about 2 centimeters per unit, which works out at about 3/4 of an inch for you guys that use inches, okay? So for each one of those, you're going to need 7 centimeters of wire, which is 2 3/4 inches, all right? So as always, I do try and remember you guys that use inches, and I will always try my best to remember. So with your industrial cutters, cut your lengths off. Flush cut the ends. So again, mind your eyes. I'll just cut a couple off. Just for demonstration purposes, and then we'll go ahead and see how we get along. All right, so there's our 7 centimeters of wire. All right, so what I tend to do is to make a few like so as I'm going along. So you need to come in with your flat nose pliers. All right, so I think the width of these, let me check that for you, just in case you're wondering. They are about 6 millimeters, which is what in inches? Hang on. About 1/4 of an inch. Okay, so the width of these is about 1/4 of an inch. So you can find the center by marking your little length of wire, or you can do what I do, sail by the skin of my teeth and see if I can eyeball it. So let's have a look. So you put about here, like so, and bend. Don't know if you heard the crunching of my joints then, but it's worth it. So you bend them like so. All right, so I go ahead and make quite a few of those. For my bracelet here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I've used 12 for my husband, who's not a small chap, you know, he's a reasonable sized guy. So you find the center like so, give a take, and then bend around the plier. Now this wire isn't very forgiving. I think with pieces for the chaps in our lives, you probably couldn't make 40 of them in a day because your hands just wouldn't stand it. So it's one of those pieces where you just make it just the once. And I'm just going to trim that. There we go. Right, so there's our little components so far. So then what I tend to do, you need to bend these guys, and they don't bend together unless you're very, very, very strong and very clever. So I tend to bend one at a time. So I'm using the second step on my plier. Again, if you are, I'm not very much shot today, I'm sorry about that, I'll try my best. If you are a strong-handed person like me, then you should be okay to bend it round the second step of your plier. And then I tend to come in and just straighten things up a little bit, like so. Let's do that again. Second step on my plier. Put your wire at the end. What you're trying to do is to bend the wire around pretty straight, like so. Use the pad of your thumb. I mean, by virtue, this is going to be a little bit more rustic. I like the word rustic. It's a better word than, I don't know, scrappy or not very well made. So if you make it rustic, that's fine. Chaps like rustic. So as you can see here, I've made a few like so. All right, so the next thing we need to do is link them together. So make 12 probably, or however, you know, if you've got a chap who's bigger than my chap, 13 or whatever. Let's just make, actually, well, I'll just measure this for you. We like measurements, don't we? It means we know what we're doing. So let's just have a quick measure of this. So that is from start to finish, including the jump ring, just short of 9 inches, which is approximately 22.5 centimetres. All right, so on me that would be way too big. Let's have a look. Yeah, be way too big on me, but for my husband that's about right. So let's get back to our little components here. So what we want to do is to take this end, slide it through the 2 hoops. Very, very similar to the cotter pin that we've done in the past. But I think when you square off the hoop end of it, if you will, it makes it look a little more masculine. All right, so this is when you come back in with your plier. Now this part here is slightly more difficult because when you get to, I'll show you what I mean. When you get around and about this kind of stage, this guy wants to butt up against your plier. So you can either turn it upside down and go for it that way, which works, or you can just fight with it. So it's entirely up to you. If you fancy a fight, then keep going. If you don't fancy a fight, just turn your component upside down. There we go. And just tidy things around a little bit. All right, so this is what we're aiming for. So again, with the hoop facing downwards, obviously, pop it in. You may need to just squeeze that a little just to accommodate for it. And start your hoop off. If you get to the point where your pliers are fighting you, just turn it upside down and go from there. That's all you need to do. Really, really simple, but really effective for the chaps. Now this wire, this 14 gauge, is really, really tough to work with. Just give them a bit of a straighten if you need to. That's it. Really, really difficult to work with, especially if you've not got the strongest of hands. Okay, so you know, I'm not too bad because I am quite a big person and I've got quite big hands. But if you wanted to do similar, I'll just show you how much easier it is with the lighter gauge wire. Oh, the sun's coming through. How lovely is that? So this is our lighter gauge wire. So essentially I make all of these sort of pins exactly the same way. So you just take your wire. Instead, I use 6 centimetres instead of 7, all right? Because it's a lighter gauge wire, you can get away with slightly less. So it just makes a slightly more delicate link. So instead of 7, I use 6 centimetres, which is, let's have a look for inches. Let's just cut that off. So for inches, that works out at, what is that? Just short of 2.5 inches. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so that's 2 3/8 of an inch. Oh gosh, inches. It's difficult when you don't use inches. Okay, so you do the same thing essentially, but I'll just show you how much easier it is with the lighter gauge wire. So find the center, bend. You see how much easier that was? Much, much easier. Not quite as rustic, not quite as masculine, if you want to use that word. With this wire here, what I tend to do is bend it like so, Can you see how I did that? Just ever so slightly, which means that you can start your wire and you don't have to bend it upside down because you can't do both wires at the same time. All right, so that's your starting link. So again, give things a little bit of a twist, a little bit of a straighten, and look how much easier it is to push that guy in. Again, so you come in with your wires through the hoop. And because I've already pre-bent each one of these, it just makes life a little bit easier. So again, in with your plier, your 6-step plier or whichever plier it is you're using. Tighten things up a little bit, straighten things along, like so. And then come in with the next one. So you just continue like this until you've got the length that you like. If you have a benevolent partner and they let you measure their wrists before you make something, I was saying to my husband, you know, I need to find out how big your wrist is, because I thought, you know, I'm a big person, maybe we're a similar size, but you know what, his wrists are so much bigger than mine. So grab your other half, grab your son, and find out what size they need. So you basically just keep going along. And I won't bore you any further with this because it's pretty repetitive and pretty much the same all the way along. All right, so just keep going. Keep going, keep going, keep going with all of your little components here until you reach the end. All right, and then we will go ahead and I'll show you how to make the clasp. So I'll see you in a few minutes. Okay, we're back. So you've probably now got this section here, haven't you? Hopefully. So let's go ahead and have a look at how to make the clasp. You're going to need a jump ring. I make the jump rings in the same gauge that I make the bracelet. So again, it all depends on how tough your hands are. These more rustic ones here, I give a hammer. It just gives them a little bit more of a masculine look, I guess, if you like that kind of thing. So we'll make the clasps. So for the 2mm 14 gauge wire, let's just shift these guys out of the way. You're going to need around about, again, 7 centimeters. All right, so is that pleasure flight? Honestly, why do I always pick the times when I'm going to have to see if I can find the times when these guys come over. I wish I was going somewhere on a pleasure flight. Where would you go in the world, guys? If you had the choice of going somewhere, I'm saving up to go to Japan because I've always fancied Japan. I just love the culture and I love all the cutesy little things that they've got over there. Where would you like to go? Come to England, you guys, in the US. Come and stay with me. That would be fun. So we've got 7 centimeters of wire. Right, so I'm going to use the 4th step on my plier to make this hoop here. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So flush cut your end. Make sure your end is flush cut at all times and put your wire towards the end. Bend your plier around against the pad of your thumb, like so. We've made peas before, the pea shape, haven't we, before? All right, so the next thing you need to do is to use the largest step on your plier, which for me is 9. And we want to bend it in the opposite direction as to this guy here. So place your pea in your plier like so, and bend this guy around as best you can, like so. You can make all sorts of different clasps for these. I like these clasps because they're very easy to put on, very easy to take off, and you know, if you're gentle with it, you can squish it together to make it a bit more secure. So this is when I come in with my little emery board and give that end just a little file just to take the sharp bits off, like so. Just give it a bit of a feel with your fingers, and if you're happy with that, which I am, that's good. And then I come in with my flat nose, just give it a little bit of a straighten. With this one, I have given it a little bit of a hammer just to strengthen it slightly. If you know, you don't really need to strengthen it really that much because it's quite strong anyway. And then come in with your plier here, just give it a tiny little lip like so. I mean, that's quite substantial, isn't it? So you could get away without giving that a hammer, you know, a texture hammer if you wanted. And then all you need to do on your last component, let me see if I can find one, a spare one. Here's one I made earlier. There we go. I knew it was somewhere. So here's the one I made earlier. All right. So all you need to do is to open up this small hoop with your pliers, like so. Open that up. Don't open it outwards. Open it like a door, like a gate. Open it outwards like so. You're going to, there you go. And then squeeze these guys together a little bit and put them both on. It's not going to do it now, is it? Because I'm on camera. Squeeze them together. Wait a minute. I can't see what I'm doing. Let me just open that up a little bit more because it's not going to play the game. There we go. Done it. So literally just close that back up. All right. It's a really good substantial hook clasp, which is great for these larger gauge things. And then all you need to do is to make a large jump ring and attach it to the end, and that's literally it. So there we go. So there's our gentleman's squared hoop, loop, cotter pin, whatever you want to call them, bracelets. Really, really, really good for the chaps. So I hope you enjoy making that. I'm just going to do a very small supplementary video, hopefully at the end of this video, where I'm going to show you how to very quickly put patina on your piece if your gentleman doesn't like the shiny gold, shiny copper look, like, you know, the pieces that we have, the red copper. So I'll see you in a few when I will take you outside and I'll show you how to put a patina on your pieces. All right, so I'll see you outside in a few. Okie dokie guys, so before I take you outside, I'm just going to run through very quickly the things that you're going to need. Really, really simple, this process, but there's some important things to remember. Okay, so the first thing obviously you're going to need is your liver of sulphur gel. I get this guy because it's the best one in my opinion. You're also going to need 2 pots. One will be for your liver of sulphur solution, and the other one will be for your sodium bicarbonate solution, which neutralizes the aging process, the patina process essentially. You're also going to need some rubber gloves for obvious reasons. This stuff can be abrasive to the hands, you know, it can actually, you can get reactions to it, so always wear rubber gloves. You're also going to need some plastic tweezers just to pick your pieces in and out. You don't want to be touching the solution directly. Okay, so just give me a second and I will put my gloves on and we'll go through the process. Okay, so it won't be a sec. Okay, so the first part of this process is to set up your sodium bicarbonate wash, which neutralizes the process. So, I don't know, you put in a couple of teaspoons probably, like so, and then add some water to it. So here I've just got some tap water, and you just mix it round until it dissolves. And this is, like I said, the neutralizing solution. So give it a good mix, mix. I'm doing this part inside, and then for the really smelly part, I'll take you outside. It can be quite smelly and it's not particularly pleasant in your house. So when I take you outside, you might hear a little bit of wind on the film, on the video, but that's just the way it is. Okay, so when you're pretty much done, I have screw top lids for mine, just because I like them. It means you can walk around with them and you don't end up spilling anything. So if you noticed, I've got my gloves on. It's recommended that you remove any of your jewellery, earrings included, because the fumes, not only are they not good for your lungs, it can affect your jewellery too. Okay, so here we've got our solution of sodium bicarbonate. All right, you're going to need a wooden dowel, some tweezers, obviously your piece. You're going to need some hot but not boiling water. Here I've got my snazzy kettle, and you're going to want your gel. All right, so I'm going to now whip you outside where we'll do the next bit. Right guys, we are outside, so if you can hear any wind, I'm sorry. So I do this bit outside because it really is very smelly and I don't like it. So we have our liver of sulphur. This one is a fresh bottle for me, and you put, I don't know, about two or three blobs in the cup, and then you pour in some hot but not boiling water. What you're looking for colour wise is, might be a bit strong that actually, it's kind of like a yellow. Give it a mix. It really smells. And then you take your piece and you dunk it in. You leave it for a little while. And can you see how dark it's going? I don't like it too dark, so that's enough for me. And then you put it in your solution to neutralise. Meanwhile, you put the lid back on this beast here, because it is the stinkiest stuff in the world. So as you can see here, I'm just jiggling this around in the solution, and it is windy and I don't care. You're just going to have to deal with it because I'm not doing this inside my kitchen. Okay, so that's how dark it's gone. All right, so I'm going to take you back inside and then we'll clean this guy up. Perfect for chaps who don't like the red copper. All right, so I'll see you in a few. Okie dokie team, we're back inside. There you go. I had to do the smelly bit outside because it's seriously smelly. So the various ways that you can clean this up now, okay? You can use a fine wire wool. So you literally just go over the surface of your piece. You don't want to take all the blackened parts off, because that's what gives it its sort of its look and its texture. If you've been watching my channel for long enough, you know that I quite like the colour of the red copper. I think it's just a really beautiful colour against any skin tone, especially if you're selling your work. It means that you appeal to a very wide audience actually. People of all skin tones will suit red copper, I think. If you are, on the other hand, wanting a little bit more of a rustic kind of look, this is what we do. We just literally take the wire wool. I use quite a fine one. Again, wire wool will shed a little bit and it will have some sort of bits of fibre sometimes will come off. So make sure that you either wear a mask or you are in a well ventilated area. Okay, just a bit of housekeeping. Make sure you look after your health whilst you're doing your hobby. So as you can see here, it takes no time at all to do this. No time at all. I'm often asked actually during some of my tutorials if I always leave my jewellery without a patina on it, and the answer to that is mainly yes. If back in the day when I used to sell jewellery at fairs and things like that, I did put patina on some pieces. Depends on the piece, to be fair. With this one being suitable for the chaps, you know, having a little bit of a patina on it is a good idea. Mainly because I just think it looks a little bit more masculine. Unless your chap really likes the colour, and then obviously leave it as it is. The alternative is these Shine Right polishing cloths, which I think they're from the Beadsmith. Now they have like a chemical in them, which will, you know, help you to polish your piece. Can you see here? That's a mixture of the wire wool and the, can you see that? So obviously make sure that you protect your lungs when you're using wire wool. But these guys, I think, have a little bit of a chemical in them where they take off some of the patina that you've put on. So these are quite good, but they are quite expensive in my opinion. So obviously if you're wanting to keep the costs down, which I do, then the best idea is to use your wire wool. All right, so here we are. So that's our patinaed and neutralized piece, which I think looks really, really nice for a gentleman. As you can see, it's still got a nice colour to it, but it's not quite as shiny and red as, you know, bare copper. All right, so what I would do after that, let me shift this out of the way. What we do after that is just give it a bit of a clean with some soapy water, and then treat with your favourite treatments. I've always used Renaissance wax, but on my Facebook group I have a lovely person who asked the question as to how to seal. I think it might have been you, Janetta, if that's the case. I'm sorry if it's not. But and somebody mentioned the like a coating, which I have actually ordered from the US, and we can't get it readily available here in the UK. So I'm going to give that a bit of a road test. Can't quite remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I did order some this morning whilst I was lying in bed. I should really be chatting to my husband, shouldn't I? But no, I'm ordering supplies instead. Am I on my own there? No. Anyway, I'll stop rambling. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care, guys. Bye.